Well, today we are going to work on getting this front end closed in. Sarah's got maybe a little over a third to half of the welding done on this side. Now she's moved over to this other side here, and she's just putting long welds in and jumping around from post to post so that we don't end up warping it. This is where the bottom of the cab shield is going to be, right here. So we're going to put a header beam in, and then we can build off of that. We can put up a couple of uprights and then put our front sheet on. Once I get that horizontal beam in there, then I can untie the posts, let them go, and that should be good. We'll get our form pieces into place, and then, like I said, put our front sheet on, and then start building the cab shield to that. So I've got a piece of 3x4 box tube already cut in the saw, and that's what we're going to use for that horizontal piece going across the front. And then we're going to use this material here for posts to come up to it to kind of hold the front piece of sheet metal on there. So we'll go ahead and get this underway here. Well, we are very slowly closing this in. I've got the front on, and now I am ready to build out the cab shield. I've got my front post coming down in place, and I just got to run like a lateral piece hook to that, and we're running about 3 inches shorter in the front than we are in the back. That way the water can run right off of it. So I've got that post on there. I've got to get the other one on. Now what I wanted to talk about here for a second is this saw. This Evolution saw has been working out very nicely. Now, the trouble I have had in the past with this 3x4 box tube, I have trouble cutting it with an abrasive wheel saw. And that is because you need a brand new wheel on the saw, and you get about 2 cuts out of it, and then all of a sudden the wheel's not big enough anymore. Being that this has a regular metal cutting wheel on it, you can cut very large material with it. Now we're running just a 14-inch blade on it. It is a 15-inch saw, and I do have a 15-inch blade for it as well. Another thing I wanted to show you, a couple videos ago I explained that my Milwaukee grinder was non-repairable. This model is a 6066. It's probably all of 25 years old. I bought this the same time I bought the mag drill, and then I bought a 13 amp half-inch drill as well. The serial number on this is 453B and then whatever. That serial number, there's an armature that isn't available for this one. The next series and ahead of it, the armature is available. I sent this in for repair, and that's what they determined it needed, was an armature. A friend of mine found a repair center in Wisconsin, News Hardware, N-E-U-S Hardware, and they were able to get an armature for this. It was rather expensive. It was about $166. Now, the Milwaukee grinder that they sell now is a 6088 and it's just about completely all plastic body here, the whole 9 yards. I want to kind of keep this thing going for a long time here. The other 7 or 9 inch grinder that I have is this Makita. I don't know why I bought this one. I don't know if there wasn't one of those available or not, but as you can see, I've had this for quite a while. This is a model number GA 9020 or 26 maybe, 9020. I don't know how long this is gonna last. I don't know when I'm gonna get the parts for that one. So I went to Harbor Freight the other night, picked up a couple of grinders. I bought a Milwaukee 11 amp grinder the other day. The motor went on it, and I don't like that body on it anyways. So I bought this, I think this one's 13 amp. Hercules 4.5, 5 inch grinder. Very nice. It's got a nice locking trigger. And I paid, I think it was $69 for it. The Milwaukee grinder was like $200. So I broke down and picked up this 7 inch or 9 inch, whatever they call them, Hercules. I think this is 15 amps maybe. I forget how many amps. I'm sorry, I forgot how many amps it was. 15 amps. I wanted this because what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put a large wire wheel on, and I'm just gonna go right down the whole side of the body when we're done before we paint it. And I do not need this thing to fail. I don't expect it to fail, but being that I don't have a spare, it might. Now, look at the resemblance on these two grinders. Got the same trigger. You roll this guy over, and the head of it seems to be about the same. Very, very similar. I forget how much these Makita grinders are now. Now again, this has been a really good grinder. I haven't had any problems with it, but this one is very similar to it. Now it could very well have the inner workings of it, could be very cheap, and it might not last, but it is Harbor Freight's top of the line grinder. This was $129. Now the other day I ended up picking up a Metabo grinder. This is an 11 amp grinder. I believe it was maybe 129, and we've got an older Milwaukee. We need a couple more 4.5 inch grinders. For the heavy duty grinding work, we use an electric grinder. When we're just polishing up the end of a tube or something, we'll use a cordless grinder, but we don't like to do too much with the cordless grinders. So I thought that was kind of ironic how similar these two grinders were. Again, I paid a lot of money for the parts for this. Hopefully it fixes it. I just want to see this grinder last another 20 years. It's all of, like I said, 25 to 27 years old. I did have a new plug on it. I took that off because I thought we were going to be throwing this away. Another neighbor friend of mine gave me some information on, hey, check with this outfit. You can get parts from them, and I did check with them, but again, the serial number of this grinder, they just don't show a armature available, and I forget the name of that company. But at any rate, we're closing in on this. I'm going to start building out the cab shield, and Sarah has, well, you can see welds top to bottom. She has jumped around. Now she's going in and filling in the spots that she has left here. So she's got a little more to do on the other side Alex had some other stuff going on, so she wasn't with us today. So yeah, she's actually a little under the weather. So yeah, well, we better get to cutting some more tubing so that we can box that cab shield out. Well, Sarah's moved over to this side, and we've got our vertical tubes drop down in the front, and then we've got to weld in a tube to go from that vertical tube back to the front post. Now, Sarge, he went out to Han, and the other day I ordered a table, a saw table, for this Evolution saw, and that's right there in that box right there. I've got this pocket right here for the Milwaukee abrasive wheel saw. I was going to build a bracket for that one too. This one here, the height of it is different than that one. So it would require a little bit to take this off. It's just a receipt. It's a 2-inch tube on here and a 2.5-inch tube under the bench, and I slide this in there. I can pull this right off. I've got the same thing with how I've got my vise on there. I can pull the vise off too. I figured it would take me a few minutes to switch from abrasive wheel saw to metal cutting saw. So I said, you know what, I think I'll just buy a table. We don't want to leave this on the table all the time, because we'll have guys coming in to cut broom handles and miscellaneous pieces of steel, and if you don't clamp your work, you end up ruining the blade. Ask Jared how we know that. So I figured I would just get the table for it, and that can support quite a bit of weight. We've already got these stands. Outside of having a roller wheel stand, they work just as good. We could set that up in the amount of time that it would take to just wheel this bench over to where we need to have it. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that out of the box, set it up. I've got to cut this tube to length to fit on the one side, and then I've got to go next door and get some more tubing that I have on the metal rack. I've got an older piece that we had left over from last year's build, so I'm going to go ahead and set up that table saw, or saw stand, if you will. Well, we've got our saw table all set up. It has adjustable legs. We're going to set the saw on it in a minute here. We're going to give it a try. I'm not really sure how durable it's going to be compared to working off of that bench, but we've got our abrasive wheel saw back in place here. We'll go ahead and set the Evolution saw onto the stand, and I'll kind of show you the different abilities that it has here. What it has is a couple of stoppers on this side, and just push it over it, and then there's a couple of L brackets that come over the top of the actual deck of the saw to kind of hold it into place. For smaller work, smaller jobs, lighter pieces of metal, it does have a couple of guides here. I've got a piece of 1-inch cold roll around the bench. I'll show you kind of how that works. This is only maybe, I don't know, 40 inches long or so. I don't know how durable this is going to be holding up a heavy piece of steel, but it'll work, you know, doing something light duty like this. Another thing it has on it too, if you're doing something that requires you to cut multiple pieces, something that's somewhere in the neighborhood of, say, I don't know, 16 inches or less, you can put up this stopper here. If I can get the tape measure to hook in my pocket, you can put this little stopper thing up, something like this here, and you can just measure out your piece, however long it's got to be, adjust the rail in here. Say you wanted it to be, oh, I don't know, that length there, which is roughly 9 inches. So if you wanted to give her 9 inches and you wanted to keep giving 9 inches or keep cutting 9 inches, you could put this into place here, cut this off, move your piece down. You wouldn't have to measure, you could just keep cutting and this stuff would go ahead and drop on the floor. So we'll utilize these other stands. I've got 3 of those and we'll just set them up. We'll set 2 on one end and 1 on the other just to catch the material as it's coming off. And then when we're not using the saw, we take it off the stand, fold the legs up, put that thing out of the way, and go accordingly. So I need to cut my metal for up front there. I've been dilly-daddling around with this unit here. So let's get our piece of metal cut here. Well, we have this table all together. We're actually using it right now. It doesn't work too awful bad. It does give us the ability to have it away from that bench so that we could still use the abrasive wheel saw. I explained it earlier on here last night. So I am cutting the right side of the one piece that's going to go on this cab shield here. I've got the left one cut already. I'm cutting the right one now, and that's what's in the saw here. So I ended up using a piece of tubing, and I'll show you the date on it here once I get it cut. This piece of tubing I had on the steel rack from building a prior body, and it has a date of December 14th, 2016 at 7:54 p.m. This was come out of Atlas. So this other tubing here has a date of like March. What was it? March I seen on here. March 1st, 2023 at 6:40 in the morning. And I don't know what mill this came out of, but at any rate, probably the same mill. So this might very well be from a piece of tubing that I had left over from the box that's on truck 18. So we're gonna go ahead and get this set up into place. I had to do a slightly angled cut there because it's not quite straight. We are tapered. So we'll go ahead and get these tacked in there. Alex is working on getting the welding done on the inside here. Well, I've got that piece setting in there, and that saw does a real nice job. Nice, perfect, tight fit there because it's a nice, perfect, straight cut. So I've just got I'm gonna clamp a piece on there so that we're right completely flush with that vertical piece coming down and our post there. But in the past, how I have cut these is with the plasma cutter, and you get a tight enough fit. You could fill it in with weld, but it's nothing as tight as that. And then again, I have explained, we really can't make that cut unless we're using a brand new wheel on the abrasive wheel saw. So this does a nice job. So we'll go ahead and get that side there tacked, and then we'll go over and tack the other side, and then we can put a horizontal piece across the front, and then we'll bring our sheet metal in and set that in there. Well, we have this cab shield all framed out, welded, and I'm ready to set a sheet on the bottom of it, the floor of the cab shield. So I've got a piece of 5x10 12 gauge here on the trailer. I need to zip that off, and the girls have got a little bit of welding left to do here on the inside. So it is closing in rather quickly here. Coming down through the side. Looks like the floor is done on this side. And she's working on seams, I guess, on that one side there. So we'll go ahead and cut this piece of sheet metal. We've got to cut it down for the length, or the width rather, and then we've got to make a couple of notches in it so that it can go around the front of the post here. So we'll bring it just down in underneath here. It'll come to there, and we need to notch out for the posts on each side here. So let's go ahead and get this cut. right, we have this piece cut. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring the forklift in, and we're gonna carry the piece of metal over, set it on the forks, and then we'll lift it up into place. And then once it's lifted up there, I've got some rectangle tube that I can come up underneath it, put the tube underneath it, and then clamp here and here. So we'll go ahead and get it lifted up there. Get off over on your end. Move down a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Alright, we gotta turn. We gotta turn. Easy there, guys. We got one week going on this here. Well, we've got this piece of sheet metal up on there. I didn't cut enough off. We had to pull it down, and I had to cut more off so that it would fit in between the posts. So we'll get that all tack welded all the way around, and then I'm gonna put the structural pieces that hold this up, I'm gonna put on the inside. And the reason why I want to put it on the inside is because I have this at the height it needs to clear the cab. If I put the supports on the bottom, I would have had to raise this up about 3 inches higher. So this is where we're going to sign off from this video. In the next video, we'll wrap that and then start putting the skirt pieces on the bottom and start in on the tailgate. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will catch you at the next video. Right?
Alex? Sarah? You're just cute as a bug.